Let us begin. सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। कृष्णं नारायणं वन्दे कृष्णं वन्दे व्रजप्रियं कृष्णं द्वैपायनं वन्दे कृष्णं वन्दे पृथासुतं सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तमनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुः तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। जन्माद्यस्य यतोऽन्वयादितरतः चार्थेष्वभिज्ञस्वराट् तेने ब्रह्महृदाय आदिकवये मुह्यन्ति यत्सूरयः। तेजो वारिमृदां यथा विनिमयः यत्र त्रिसर्गो मृषा धाम्ना स्वेन सदा निरस्तकुहकं सत्यं परं धीमहि। धर्मप्रोज्झितकैतवोऽत्र परमः निर्मत्सराणां सताम् वेद्यं वास्तवमत्र वस्तु शिवदं तापत्रयोन्मूलनम्। श्रीमद्भागवते महामुनिकृते किं वा परैरीश्वरः सद्यो हृद्यवरुध्यतेऽत्र कृतिभिः शुश्रूषुभिस्तत्क्षणात्। निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवतं रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः। मुहुरहो रसिका भुवि भावुकाः। निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखादमृतद्रवसंयुतम्। What is the essence of the entire vast volumes of scriptures that we have in our Sanatana Vaidika Dharma? As you go through the length, breadth and the depth of these scriptures, you will find that there is only one common point which is expressed in various perspectives, because each one of us come from different mindsets. So many people blame that as complication of Hinduism because of these many scriptures. It is not a complication, but it has to be understood as sophistication. When you go into a mall, a supermarket, just to buy a toothpaste, how many brands sell toothpaste? Umpteen number of them. Within each brand, how many different varieties do they sell? Again, umpteen number of them. Some focus on the plaque, some, whether they work or not is a different issue. But they are definitely advertised that way. Some work on plaque, some work on tartar, some work on sensitive tooth, sensitive gums. भाई इतना confusion क्यों? एक product में करो बस. Having that much of variety for that many people who may have that many varieties of issues that they can approach and over the counter take something which suits them. Is this kind of personalization called sophistication or complication? Complicated sophistication. As and when as a society we mature, we try to bring the solutions to the society in multiple various methods that can suit different people from different backgrounds with different mindsets so that everybody is catered to. Similarly, there is one concept and that one concept is addressed in so many different ways that when they approach the scripture, there is no possibility of a dogma in Hinduism. You follow this क्योंकि ये ऐसा ही है. No, there is a logic, there is a reason, there is a method, there is a purpose. All that you have to do is connect the method and the purpose, and like yesterday many of you had, oh, wow, kind of moments when you connect those two. Revelation moments. And what is that one concept? That one concept is that there is only one truth, one satyatva aspect. And that one, we call it as the substratum, the ādhārabhūta of everything that which is, which was and which shall be. We call that as Paramatma. And that Paramatma is, the way it is defined, is kartum, akartum, anyatha kartum shakyah. That who can, if he chooses to, cannot, if he chooses to, or give you a completely different out-of-the-box picture because he is Sarva Shaktiman, Sarva Samartha. Now, such Bhagavan, if you say that he has only 10 avatars, isn't it putting a limit on him? Wherever we envision a limit, it becomes the sore point of suffocation. Whether it be a man as a husband, a woman as a wife, if you say you can do only this much, there will be a revolt, there will be a agitation against that limitation. So that Sarva Samartha Bhagavan, who has the capacity to express in multiple formats, in multiple various ways, is so profound and so difficult to understand, too difficult to fathom. And if we have paid attention to simple puja vidhis, where when we perform the abhishek, we chant the Purusha Sukta. How does it start? In a very funny way. Sahasrasīrṣā puruṣah sahasrākṣas sahasrapat sabhūmim viśvato vritvā atyatishthaddaśāṅgulam puruṣaye vedagam sarvam. It continues. I'll stop here. Those who listen to this and have an artistic mindset, they try to envision. So you see those artists, those sculptors, when they bring that vision of this Purusha Sukta Purusha in a form, they can envision Sahasra Sirsha Purusha, thousands of heads, yes, can be envisioned. Thousands of hands, that's also possible. But that is where it stops. What is the next sentence? Sahasra path, thousands of legs. Now try drawing that, try sculpting that. See, my best time that I can think of is when I talk any kind of these subjects to young children. This is a very dry topic, this Purusha Sukta. Once a kid asked, what is it that they were chanting? Can you explain? When I can always escape saying, you will not understand it. But then I attempted. So I started explaining the head part, then the arms and hands. And when I came to the legs, this was probably less than 5th graders. So one kid raised a hand. So is Bhagwan like a centipede? Thousands of legs, right? It's difficult to fathom, it's difficult to understand, it's difficult to visualize it. But when we look at it with this perspective, how many of us, how many species are there on this creation? 84 lakh, 8.4 million. 84 lakh varieties, species. Within those 84 lakh species, let's take one variety as a sample, just so that we can get the idea. And this sample that I am going to pick is so small a number that it can be calculated, is the Homo sapien, human beings. How many of us are there on this earth? I just claimed that it was calculatable. Don't give me a question mark face. It is close to 7.4, 7.5 billion population. And as I said, this is one of the smallest number of a variety which can be calculated. The rest of the varieties are so much that it is difficult to calculate. And all of these species, all of these beings that exist as of now, enlivened, they are empowered from a chetanatva because of which they are alive. There is prana shakti in all these beings. And every format of being has a head, has eyes, has hands, has legs, most of them at least. Behind every moving eye, every moving lip, every moving head is that Paramatma alone expressing Sahasra Sirsha Purushaha. Innumerable number of heads is the expression of that Bhagavan alone. Innumerable number of eyes, it is that Paramatma alone, without whose presence, see, if there is an unfortunate event that somebody dies, when people cry out of pain, suffering, what is one common line that we hear? Are, chhod kar chala gaya. He is gone. Right? So we also know there was something in here because of which this hands, legs, mouth were moving. Absence of which it is just a shower. That Shiva Tattva has gone. That principle of life, that spark of life. In spite of expressing himself in these multivarious formats, that Paramatma has expressed specifically in formats that which is tangible as his very expression. We call that as incarnation or avatar. Not my home. The actual one. So the third chapter begins to give us this concept and then enumerates it as well. Are you ready for the count? Because we have a wrong concept that it is only 10. We have a wrong concept that those 10 are in a particular sequence that we are accustomed to. That I have already changed, tried to change at least. So here he starts from the first of the first of the first. The first of the first of the first. स एव प्रथमं देवः कौमारं सर्गमास्थितः चचार दुश्चरं ब्रह्मा ब्रह्मचर्यमखण्डितम्. He says, as soon as this creation was to be envisioned, the first that were born expressed as the Manasa Putra are the 4 Sanat Kumaras. All 4 of them bundled together as one expression of that very Paramatma. Acha, Sanat Kumaras are also Avatara? We didn't know that. Dvitiyam tu bhavayasya rasatalagatam mahim uddharishyan utpadata yagnesha saukaram vapuhu. Saukaram vapuhu. When the entire creation was submerging in the celestial waters, say the ocean, it is not this ocean, it is the celestial ocean. Even our understanding about this ocean as to what is the reality of it and what we perceive it as are two different. We say the ocean is on this earth. It is actually the other way around. The earth is in, the bhubhaga is in the ocean. How much percentage of this earth is covered with water? We have got a geologist. 70% water, 30% earth mass. That which is larger, this is in that. So in the celestial waters, when the entire creation was submerging, he took the form of the Sukara Rupa, Saukaram Vapuhu, Sukarupa, Varaha Rupa, and he dived down deep, fought with Hiranyaksha and brought this back. Hiranyaksha was the original capitalist. He found an opportunity that this could make a lot of money. So the entire creation, he folded it up and wanted to take it for himself. Isn't that what the capitalists do? Wherever there is resource, that has to be mine. Monopoly. He wanted to monopolize it. So he fought him down, brought the earth, brought the entire creation back out of those celestial waters. Saukaram Vapu. But you said Adi Varaha. Amongst the 10 that we talk, that one is the first one. You get the clarity? Okay, now I'll move forward. Tritiyam Rishi Sansarga Devarshitvam Upetyasaha Tantram Sattvamachashta Naishkarmyam Karmanam Yataha. The third one is along with these. The first came the 4 Manasaputras, then came the next Manasaputra, which is Narada Rishi. Unlike what we have been taught through the cinema industry, that he is Kalahapriya, the one who starts lot of messy situations. Naradaji is one of the greatest. Narada, the one whose job, he is an eternal entity. The one whose job is to constantly guide people towards knowledge. Naram dadati yaha saha narada. Yes, he is playful, but his purpose is to bring that knowledge and wisdom to whosoever life that he ever interacts with. Guaranteed they will have nothing less than that supreme. For such one who can guarantee that supreme just by mere contact, how dare we ridicule him as Kalahapriya? Tritiyam Naradam Devarshi Turye Dharmakala Sarge Nārāyaṇa Vrishi. In the Chaturtha Avatara, it is Nārāyaṇa who came in the form to teach us about tapas. So that is the 4th Avatara. Panchamah Kapilo Nama Siddhesha Kala Viplutam. The 5th is Kapila Mahamuni. This Kapila Mahamuni, who was born of Devahuti, gave that which even Bhagavan Krishna cut and pasted his wisdom in the Bhagavad Gita as the 2nd chapter and called it Sankhya Yoga. That Sankhya Yoga Vijnana was given first by Kapila Mahamuni, who was the son of Devahuti. Shashthe Atrerapanyatvam Vratah Prapto Nasuyaya. Between Atri and Anasuya, the names are so beautiful. As you know, you keep chanting it, you can just get lost with one name for hours together. Atri. Atri, not three. Oh, three in Sanskritam is three? Yes. Again, copied and pasted from Sanskritam to all other languages. Three is Triguna, the one who is Gunatita, the one whose nature is Gunatita. Not being impacted by sattvic, rajasic or tamasic, such embodiment of purity, such one is called Atri. And who is his wife? The one who does not have even an iota of thought of hatred towards any format of existence. In today's world, once I was giving away prasad after puja or lecture or something. There were a bunch of fruits. I said, hey, come on, take some prasad. So there was one kid. So whatever was coming in my hand, it was like multiple fruits in that basket. Whatever came, I picked it up and gave. I was trying to give. So the kid looks at my hand and said, "You, I hate green apples." And that had an impact on me. I said, you may not want it, I can understand. You may not like it, that also I can understand. What did the poor green apple do to you to hate it? Let us understand this concept now. This entire creation, kan mein basa raha. Like every aspect is expression of that Paramatma. Even if an iota of this creation is hated by me, who am I directly hating? Isn't it that Bhagavan that I am hating? Can we afford to hate Bhagavan? And the one whose life imbibed this quality that she had hatred, not even an iota of thought of hatred towards anyone. Such one was Anasuya. Born to that, Atri and Anasuya is this sixth avatar, Dattatreya. Oh, Dattatreya is also Avatara. I heard a gasp on this side. Oh. Tata saptama ākutyāṃ rucir yajño sa yamatyai suraganaihi. So the seventh one, Ruchi Prajapati and his wife Akuti, there was this son born whose name is called Swayambhu Manu. Inadvertently, foolishly, many of the educated Hindu, they talk trash about Manu and his Manusmriti as though they were their chaddi buddies. Manu is Swayam Nārāyaṇa's avatara. And none of those who criticize that Manusmriti have even opened that book, read even one shloka. They have not put an effort to read completely. And they have the audacity to say, oh, Manusmriti ko jala denge. Jalao. Who is that Manu? He is the very avatar of Bhagavan Sri Mahavishnu. Ashtame merudevyam tu nabhir jataurukrama darshayan vartmadhiranam sarvashramanamaskrutam. The eighth one born of Raja Nabhi and Meru Devi, is Rishabhadeva. Rishabhadeva, a great tapasvi. We will read that story also. And all of these that are mentioned will be elaborated. So Swamiji, please stop. Can you tell that one particular thing, how it is avatar? Patience. Everything that is being introduced is elaborated in the later chapters. So if you have patience, you will be able to hear all of them. Rishibhiryachito bheje navamam parthivam vapuhu. The ninth avatar is verily that because of whom we call this earth as Prithvi. Raja Prithu. He is the ninth avatar. Rupam sa jagrihe matsyam. Now comes Matsya avatar. So when the Pralaya waters were engulfing this entire creation, making the earth itself as the boat, this Matsyavatara guided the entire species of 8.4 million, 84 lakh species towards safety for next creative expression. That was Matsyavatara. Sura suraganam udadhim mantham mandharachalam dadhe kamatharupena kṛṣṇa ekadashe vibuhu. Ekadashe, the 11th one, is kamatharupa, the one who has the hard shell on their back. Who is the one that has the hard shell on his back? Kurma Avatara, the one who carried that Manthana Parvata so that it would not submerge in the Kshiṛasagara on his own back, and gave good substratum of support to that Parvata, is the next avatar. Oh, there is also a confusion that how can there be more than one avatar at the same time? What, you have not seen movies with double role, triple role, 4 roles? क्या मूवी में कर सकते हैं तो भगवान नहीं कर सकता क्या? Off your top of your head, can you tell one incidence where there is more than one avatara that comes into picture? Think. Rama, Parashurama. Rama and Parashurama is one classic example. The other example is, he has taken the avatara as the Kamatharupa. While that milky oceans were being, Kshiṛasagara was being churned, he expressed in the format of Dhanvantari with the Amrita Kalasha, and he is the father of the entire medicine. Dhanteras that we celebrate has got nothing to do with Dhana. It is a shortened form of Dhanvantari. Again, marketing strategy. वो धन है उसमें लगा दो, gold, buy gold. You can buy gold any day. That is not the context. But understand what it is celebrated for. Dhanteras is celebrated just before Deepavali, because all of these were born in that milky ocean churning right about the same time. One after the other. Lakshmi ji was also Lakshmi Kshira Samudra Raja Tanayam. So she was born in there. Before her was born Dhanvantari. Her birthday is Deepavali. His birthday is 2 days before, on the Trayodashi. So Dhanvantari is another avatar. Then as he came and he gave the Amrita Kalasha, Bhagavan came in the form of Mohini to give or distribute that Amrita. So right at one point, one intersection, you see 3 avatars simultaneously. So you shouldn't be scratching your head like, how is this possible? How can Bhagavan appear 3 times? But he has appeared in this multivarious formats of this creation. Can't he appear in his own form 3 different ways? All at the same time? Yes, all at the same time. Kamatha Rupa, then Dhanvantari Rupa, then Mohini Avatar. Chaturdasham Narasimham. Then he was born in the form of Nrsimha Avatara to help his tiny little devotee called Prahlada. Panchadasham Vamanakam. 15th avatar is Vamana Avatara. Avatare Shodashe me Pashyan Brahmadruho Nrupan Trisapta Kritva Kukitaha. 3 Sapta, 3 times 7. 21 times he went across the globe because of the kings that were wrongly oppressing the Brahmana. Therefore he went and wiped out 21 times such Kshatriyas. That was the avatar of Rama with Parashu. Therefore called Parashurama. Then came the avatar of Tadas Saptadashe Jataha Satyavatyam Parasharat. Born of Satyavati and Parashara. Your question yesterday. Matsyagandha, she was also known as Satyavati and Parashara. Born to them was S.K.D. Vyas. Śrīkṛṣṇa dvaipāyana Vyasa. Then he took the avatar of Krishna, Krishnavatara Bhuvo, Bhagavan Haram. He was born, he took the avatar of Krishna. Now, this you can pay attention to. Many people have confusion about Kalki Avatar. I have been teaching for the last 30 years. So, when you go to a website, they have something called a collection of questions called FAQs. So, in 30 years, I have been asked several times the question, when is Kalki Avatar? So, that is one of the frequently asked questions. So, to clarify, the 24th shloka of the 3rd chapter of the 1st skanda clarifies it very clearly that tatah kalau sampavrate sammohaya suradvisham. Before that is the Buddha avatar. So the next avatar is the Buddha avatar. And after that is the avatar of Kalki. And when is that Kalki? He says, Yathasau Yuga Sandhyayam. Yuga Sandhyayam, meaning the end, the Sandhya Kala of Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga has 4,32,000 years. With the reference to the Kali Yuga in time, where exactly are we? Because the Gregorian calendar is a hodgepodge, that which we follow. With respect to the Kali Yuga, where exactly are we? Therefore, do your puja regularly. Because when you do the puja, there is a sankalpa. In the Sankalpa, you chant both the context of time and space. The answer is already given. Kali Yuge, Prathame Pade. What Pada? What does Prathama Pada mean? That if the entire Kali Yuga is divided into 4 quarters, in those 4 quarters, the first quarter, say divide 432,000 by 4, it is 108 years in each Pada. In that first Pada, we are just about 5,133 to 35 years. That's all. So when you compare it with 432,000, it is like a baby step into Kali Yuga. Swami ji, Gaur Kali Yuga aa gaya, chup, dekha bhi nahi hai tumhe Kali Yuga. Gaur Kali Yuga is in the Chaturtha Pada. If you think this is unbearable, imagine how unbearable it is then. It would be then. In that, the Sandhya Kala of that Chaturtha Pada is when we have the Kalki Avatara resuming his Avatara to uplift the society, uplift the Bhuloka. Then he says, Avatara hi asankheyaha hare sattvanidhe. There are several kinds of avatars that are born. All of these avatars that are expressed at the end. All of these avatars that have expressed are just one tiny aspect of that cosmic reality called Parabrahma Paramatma. That Parabrahma Paramatma's a tiny aspect expresses as this avatar, as this creation, and to help and support that creation, he comes. Why does he come? He is very clearly explained it in Bhagavad Gita. Sambhavami yuge yuge. Why do you come? Paritrāṇāya sadhūnām vināśāya duṣkṛtāṃ dharma samsthapanārthāya sambhavami yuge yuge. There, yuge yuge does not have to be understood, should not be understood as one per yuga. He is the director, scriptwriter, playwriter, he is the producer, he is the actor. And now you limit him one avatara per yuga, then we get confused. We get confused that in Satya Yuga itself he had so many avatars. In Dwapar Yuga also he had so many avatars. In Kali Yuga there has already been an avatara called Bodhavatara. There is also going to be Kalki Avatara. Yuga means a calculation of time, a moment. So, moment to moment, there is these avatars. Sambhavami yuge yuge. He independently expresses. You and I, choicelessly we have to take birth. Why am I born like this? You didn't have a choice. Nobody asked you, Beta, aoge bahar? After the right time is done, we were thrown out into this world. As we come, we continue the entire life in the same mode. How does every child come into this world? Crying. How do we continue? Crying. For one reason or the other, constantly complaining, whining, crying. We don't have a choice. But whereas he comes out of no compulsion, he comes out of his own free will and choice. To do what? Paritrāṇāya sadhūnām, to protect the sadhu. Vināśāya duṣkṛtāṃ, and to eliminate the evil. So yes, one way to look at it is there is evil out there and there is the class of people called sadhu and they will be protected. Ask anybody, are you good or are you bad? If it is in public, everybody would like to claim, I am good only. If this were in Telugu, I would say, God is good in Adu. That cannot be translated in English. I am good only. In percentages, maybe 50-50. Anta chattavandi kada, I am not that bad. There is something. It is not by the definition of each one's claim that I am a sadhu. Therefore, Bhagavan should protect me. There is a clear-cut definition of who a sadhu is. In the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there are 20 qualities that have been described. That individual who has imbibed those 20 qualities can be stated as a sadhu. After reading that, don't feel disappointed. Correct? We don't have, people like us don't have a choice. So look at it this way, that particular shloka. There is sadhu lakshana in each one of us. There is also asadhutva in each one of us. Isn't it? So when he takes avatara, it is to protect this sadhutva from our own asadhutva. Does it make sense? Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Reva Parabrahma Tasmai Śrīkṛṣṇāya namaḥ or Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Śrīkṛṣṇāya namaḥ. Both are patantara. What is this Swamiji always says Guru Reva, Guru Reva? This Guru Stotram comes in two different parts of the scripture. One comes in Pandav Gita, the other comes in Guru Gita. One place it is said as Guru Sakshat, the other place it is said as Guru Reva. The tradition that I belong to has always said as Guru Reva, so that is how it ends up being Guru Reva. Now coming back to the point, when we say Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, I am invoking that Guru itself as Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. What does it mean? That I am invoking that grace of that Guru in my life, that may you be Brahma for me, so that a seeker is created. What is Brahmaji's job? Creation. So what is it that I am expecting Guru as Brahma to create? The seeker in me. But the seeker is very fragile. So I invoke that Guru Tattva to protect this seekerhood as Vishnu. And sometimes to protect this seekerhood, the Guru has to protect us from us. दुनिया से नहीं बचाना है हमको, अपने से अपने आप को बचाना है. Who is the greatest threat? Our own wrong habits, our own indiscipline. There is certainly a desire that I have to evolve. But who breaks that resolution? Every new year, we have resolution. In 2 months it will come. Another year also will pass by. And our resolutions are so unachievable resolutions. In the coming year, I resolve to. Mine are achievable resolutions. I have a computer with a screen of this resolution. I promise to change that resolution. to a better resolution. I decide what I have to bring in a change. Who breaks those? Is it the outside world that is forcing us to break, or is it our indiscipline which is breaking it? So I invoke that Guru's grace to protect me from myself, so that that seekerhood which is fragile can have the opportunity to grow. Such one which is projected and which is eagerly waiting to grow, there can be externalities that are stopping, as that Sadashiva in the Rudra form. Oh Bhagavan, make sure that you are the Rudravatara. Oh Guru, you as the Rudravatara, remove all these obstacles, both from within and without. To such Guru Tattva, I salute. Sambhavami yuge yuge, that he comes in this format, in various formats that he has expressed. He comes so that individually also we get uplifted. So this third chapter comes to an end. Then in the fourth chapter, as promised, to why this Bhagavatam Mahapurana, who wrote this Bhagavatam Mahapurana, what was his inspiration, why did he have to write it? If he has already written that many, why this again? So the fourth chapter, fourth adhyaya begins. Shaunaka uvacha. Suta Suta Mahabhaga Vadano Vadatam Vara Katham Bhagavatim Punyam Yadaha Bhagavan Shukaha. I see this as a little desperation. कि भैया बहुत इंट्रोडक्शन हो गया, अब कथा पे आओ ना प्लीज. But katha is not yet started. Already these many shlokas have gone by. Please come to the katha part. Tell us the katha. Kasmin yuge pravrajapriyam sthane vakena hetuna kutas sanchodita kṛṣṇaṃ kritavan samhita munihi tasya putro mahayogi. The question, barrage of questions that is being asked is, this katha was given in which yuga? To who was this katha given? Why was this katha written? How was he inspired to write it? Who inspired him to write this katha? If you have ever tried to write, those who are writers, they have something called a writer's block. Right? That they know they have a concept, but that concept to verbalize it and put it on paper, they find it difficult. They sometimes go through that block. So they are in search of something to inspire them to unblock themselves. So what is it that inspired him to write this humongous text called Bhagavata? So Suta Uvacha. Sutaji responds. And that too, you can see the eagerness. Suta Suta Mahabhaga. See, whenever you want to seek somebody's attention, you call them more than once, isn't it? You want the eagerness to be understood. Swamiji, Swamiji. Swamiji once is enough. Why that second time? Is to show that eagerness, to show that enthusiasm. So Suta Suta. So Sutaji smiles and he says, Dvapare samanuprapte tritiye yuga paryaye jatah parasharad yogi vasavyam kalaya harehe. In the almost at the end of Dvapara Yuga, again Dvapara Yuga, the time lap, the end of it doesn't mean the very end, last year. like in the very later stages of Dwapara Yuga was born this Vyasa to Parashara and Satyavati. So one day he was sitting on the Saraswati Nadi Tira and he was lost in a very deep thought. Who? Not Parasharji, Vyasji. Vyasaji was lost in a very deep thought. I have composed or compiled the entire Vedic literature, subdivided them into 4 parts, called it as Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda and Atharvana Veda. Wrote down all the Itihasa Purana, which are called the 5th Veda, Itihasa Purana. Not only did I compose and compile all of this, just so that they are not lost to the posterity, I also made sure that there is a parampara that is left behind, so that this knowledge can be carried forward further ages. What a visionary! That whose vision, because of whose inspiration, you and I have the opportunity to sit now and talk about that which he has written 5,000 years ago. He says, Tatra Vedadhara Pailaha Samago Jaimini Kavihi Vaishampayano Evaikaha Nishnato Yajushamata Atharvangirasam Sumantur Daruno Munihi Itihasa Purananam Pitame Romaharshanaha. Of his students that he had, Vedavyasji selected the best of the best and he taught the Rig Veda to Paila Mahamuni. Then the Sama Veda was given to Jaimini Rishi. Then Vaishampayana was given the Yajurveda. Atharva Veda was given to Sumantu. Who did he learn Atharva Veda from? Who did Vedavyasji learn Atharva Veda from? At least one student knows it, I am fine, I am happy. Because people get confused between Jaimini and Javala. Jaimini Rishi was given the Sama Veda and Atharva Veda was given to Sumantu. The Itihasa Purana was taught to Sutaji's, Ugrashrava's father, whose name was Romaharshana. Was taught directly by Vedavyasji himself. See, our history can be traced very clearly, the parampara, the sampradaya, which is an unbroken tradition for a minimum of 5,000 plus years. When I say 5,000 plus years, it is just because it is cumbersome to calculate beyond that. But definitely, certainly 5,000 years, unbroken tradition. Another, at least 13,000 years prior to Vedavyasji, also this tradition can be tracked. So a total of 18,000 years, I can sit down and give you the entire list of unbroken tradition up until today. Imagine how sacredly this has been maintained and handed down from one generation to the other. How much more careful as this generation we have to be to learn it and hand it down to our next generation. If we have not done it, would we not have failed civilizationally to carry forward that civilizational memory to the next generation? So he was sitting, he said, Though I have compiled all of this, given this as a tradition, trained students, because there might be people that may not find it easy to understand the Upanishads and the Vedic, I have even looked into putting that across as Itihasa and Purana in easy language for them to understand, in a story format for people to grasp easily. And yet, I find that there is no trupti. Who is saying this? After having compiled all of these, after having written down all of these, after having taken care, ensured that there is a tradition maintained, to our standards, he is like a genius who has envisioned this grand scheme, put it in perspective, trained for the posterity. Shakha, Upashakha, right? During his time, it had evolved into that many branches. And still he said, kuch to hai. I am not still satisfied. There is no contentment from within. It's almost like the modern day language, if I have to compare it, गाड़ी है, बंगला है, सूट है, ये है, वो है, तृप्ति नहीं है. Modern day, we have everything that you can name off at our fingertips, isn't it? You don't even need to cook. You don't even need to bring a tomato inside. Zomato will bring it. Everything at the tip of a finger, it reaches us. But trupti is not guaranteed. Some of the most unsophisticated, rugged places, I have found people with such trupti. I do not see myself as a very emotionally charged person. So one day I was in Jageshwar. This place is further up north from Almora, Nainital, Almora, further north. Closer to Jageshwar, there is a place called Vruddha Jageshwar. There is a Shiva temple, both places. I saw this village kids playing. So I also played with them for a while. And I looked at some of those kids, so innocent, so, down to earth. So I asked one other kid, कितने बच्चे होंगे इस गांव में? How many kids will be there? 50 लोग, 60 लोग, 50-60 people. Because as we were playing, there was a shop that was freshly making samosa and jalebi. Every so often these kids would keep looking at that, their mouth watering and continuing to play. So I said, why not gather all of them? So I went to that, that halwai. I said, Bhaiya, I need, samosas for 60 kids, and I need 2 jalebis per kid, how many ever kilos that may be. So he looked at me and I said, Mazak to nahi kar rahe ho Babaji? You are not playing with us, right? You are serious about it. I said, yes, I am. So then I asked him, in the whole village, how many people are there? So he said, at the most at this point of time, there may be about 120 people, including those 50 kids. I said, बना पाओगे सबके लिए? Can you make it for all 150? So he immediately went inside, looked at his, suddenly ordering at the top of the hill, they should have the raw material, right? So he came back and he said, give me half an hour, I will have 150 samosas and about 3 kilos of jalebi for all the villages. So I told the kids, go to every house, call everybody to the temple, we will have samosa jalebi distributed to everybody. I did not ask how much it costs. The shopkeeper, that halwai, did not tell me how much it costs. He made it. And if it were in the sophisticated areas, what is the first thing that they would have said? Pehle advance nikalo. Put the advance on the table first. And that fellow gave me like 100 grams of jalebi as a sampler for free. Arre khao babuji. And after everything was made, according to the chart that he had, I mentally calculated how much it would roughly cost. So I went to him with the money and I said, Dhanyavad. Like, you on a timely occasion pattern, you jumped up and made all of this happen in half an hour. I cannot thank you enough. Take the money. Half of it he returned back. He said, you did not eat even that sampler that I gave, you did not eat much. Everything that was made, you gave it back to the villagers. Just give me for the material cost. I don't need for any profit. How often do we find such simplicity? The more we get sophisticated, the more we become aloof from the basic humanness. Isn't it? The more rugged, rustic, we find them more grounded. So when this Vyasa Bhagavan was so touched that these people that can be reached out, let them have the best of the knowledge so that their lives and their next, but still I don't have any satisfaction. Trupti nahi hai. Maybe I have become too sophisticated. Where did I go wrong? Why am I not having this? Who is this? Swayam nārāyaṇaṃ avatara is like thinking. So meanwhile, as this was happening, in the next chapter enters Narada Muni. See, when you read Bhagavatam, all the stupid way of presenting Narada in all the, that he is like a culprit, instigator. So Naradaji comes and he says, Hey Parasharya. Why is he called Parasharya? Because he is the son of Parashara. Hey Parasharya. There used to be a old ad on the radios. I don't know, when I was growing up I used to hear it. ఏమిటి రామయ్య దీర్ఘంగా ఆలోచిస్తున్నావు? What are you thinking about it? What are you lost in? It was some shed. Asbestos shed. So something similar to that, Naradaji asks, I have always seen you with such inspiring look. Why do you look so dull? See, whenever the Shishya is ready, the Guru comes. You don't go in search of Guru shopping. eguru.com. these are the parameters and criteria that I want a guru in. ऐसे guru नहीं मिलते. See, understand it this way. Does a flower ever go advertise about itself and its blossoming, upcoming blossom anywhere on the billboard, saying, hey you bees and bumblebees out there in the world, tomorrow early morning with the first sunrise I am going to bloom, come? No. All that it has to do is bring the best out of that flower in that blossom, and the bees will come to pollinate that flower. Similarly, Nāradji came, asked him a direct question, and suddenly waking up from his thought that he was lost in, saw Narad Bhagavan, and he offered him his seat, washed his feet, did the puja archana of Nāradji, sat down on his feet. And when Nāradji felt that he was a little relaxed, then Vyas Bhagavan asked his question. See, how to ask questions, when to ask questions is also, it's also to be learnt. Most of the times when I go for these lectures, and after the lecture I go for somebody's house for bhiksha, food. I've spoken here for 1.5 hours. They have also heard it. Once I reach the home and I'm sitting, then they sit down and say, Swami ji, आप कुछ अच्छा बोलिए. क्या अब तक क्या मैं बकवास बोल रहा था? देखिए अब मैं कुछ अच्छा बोलूं. बहुत कर दिया. And Nāradji must have come from a distant place. He is Triloka Sanchari. So he allowed him take some rest. Probably pressed his feet, gave him little comfort, gave him something to relax, eat. And then when he found Nāradji relaxed, then he asked a question. You know all that which has been contributed through me to this world in these many years. And yet, I don't know what is eating me up. I don't find that contentment. So Nāradji very smilingly looks at him and he says, I can see through, I can exactly tell you what is causing this. All your life you have been in this Loka Sangraha, you have given the dharma with which these humans can live a very seamlessly peaceful life. Pay attention, a very important point being said. But nothing has been said by you in the glory of Bhagavan. In the stuti of Bhagavan, you haven't said much. Focused only on that. You have spoken about dharma and dharmic way of life. How to live a dharmic way of life, you have also lived and showed them as the ideal to follow. You yourself are mukta, but santrupti is not there because you have not brought that in conclusion in the stuti of Bhagavan. Therefore, I would suggest, since you have seen Bhagavan Krishna from very close quarters, you are the front row witness of the entire Krishna avatar. And you anyway know about all the avatars of Bhagavan Vishnu. You are Trikalagnya, you know the past, you know the present, you know the future as well. Why don't you write the great Charita of Bhagavan in the form of Bhagavata? As Nāradji was enumerating this, there was a romancha in Vyasaji. You know, when you are trying to search for something which you are missing. Supposing you are an accountant. You know how much came in, you know how much you have spent, but there is, because sometimes when you are writing that one number misses the digit. The bottom line changes by lakhs. And you are pulling your hair as to where is this mistake? And suddenly you see right there popping, this should be on this side, it has come on this side, and it has caused this confusion for hours. The moment you realize what was stopping you, what you were seeking was not visible, the moment it becomes visible, first thing is you cannot unsee it. It is clear now. You cannot unsee it. There is an instant relief. And in that instant relief, Vyasji had Romancha Gadgada that such a beautiful solution, Naraji. Why couldn't I think of it? How many times it happens, right? That we are searching for the glasses right on our nose. And our kid or grandkid comes and says, what are you searching? He says, my glasses. Laughs at you. And says, right there. As soon as you say, oh. So, Vyasji had that moment wherein he immediately understood. And then he said, I shall take this inspiration, but I would like to ask you a few questions. I would want to know about your inspiration. Naradji was Vyasji's inspiration. Now Vyasji is asking, what has been your inspiration in your life that you always are constantly traveling? There is no travel fatigue. People who travel, even within one city, going through the traffic which looks like a Padmavyuha. You don't know from which side which traffic is going to come. One side is bike wala, the other side is auto wala. At least these are in the same direction. Sometimes there is a lorry wala coming in the opposite direction. There is a travel fatigue. You go through the 14 worlds, Chaturtasha Bhuvana. Go across the cosmos, you don't need a visa. You have a diplomatic immunity all across different lokas, different Devata sthanas. What keeps you so inspired? What keeps you so happy? There is a constant smile on your face. What is your inspiration? What is your story? So Naradji says, O Vyas Maharaj, it so happened that in the earlier creation cycle, I was born to a Dasi who used to work for a Brahmin family in whose house there were a lot of Mahatmas that would come and they would host them. You understand the sequence? Don't get distracted by the sound. I'll repeat it again. I will. He said, in the earlier cycle of creation, my mother was a Dasi, a servant maid, in a Brahmin's house. Those Brahmins would host a lot of sadhus in their house. In such environment, I was born. And when I was probably 4 or 5 years old, I was quite an introvert. I would observe everything, absorb everything, speak less, and whatever task that was given, I would diligently complete it. So looking at that, the family that would host the sadhus, one of the times when there was the Chaturmasya and the sadhus had arrived, the Brahmin host appointed me to serve those sadhus. So during that Chaturmasya, as I was serving, I made keen observations of the routine of those sadhus and started mimicking them, started mirroring exactly what they were also doing. Anyway, while serving them, I had to be up and awake before them. And because I am still serving, I would be the last one to sleep. What age was he? Remember that. It's not like, grown up. It's a 4 or 5 year old. Imagine the intensity with which he was serving. And he observed all the patterns that these sadhus were maintaining, absorbed it and started practicing it also. Looking at this astute little kid, those Mahatmas, they took to a liking to this kid and groomed him in all the sadhanas, took personal care and gave him all the tips for sadhana. Soon the Chaturmasya ended and they left. So Naradji says, though they all left, that seed of practice that they had initiated in me, I continued. But since my mother was lonely, I was the only one there for her and she was the only one there for me. Though I loved her, but I was not clingy, but she was very clingy. One day, after several months after the Chaturmasya was done, my mother had gone in the evening to milk the cows. As she was coming, we all in the house heard the vessel, the milk vessel, fall. So we all ran out. It seemed like she stepped on a snake and the snake bit her and she passed away. As soon as she passed away, I felt that Bhagavan, whatever was the last responsibility and attachment that I had, he removed it from my life. Now, instead of wasting time trying to think as to why has this happened, why me have been left alone, good that now that I am alone, I can now spend time on pursuing this path. Because these sadhus had left northwardly, I also started walking northwardly. So he describes how many cities, how many rivers, how many gardens, how many beautiful hilly places that he climbed and got down and got across while walking north. He finally reached a place which there were no human beings in that forest. In a nice secluded spot right next to a beautiful lake, I refreshed myself. With all intensity of vairagya and clarity, I sat down to meditate on that Bhagavan as initiated by those Mahatmas. I immediately could switch myself off with even the identity with this body. I was so drawn within, and for a flash of a moment, I saw Bhagavan's Divya Murti. For a very fraction of small moment, I saw this beautiful form. Then for the next several days and weeks on end, I tried recapturing that moment and I could not. And that frustration set me off with so much of pangs of separation from that vision of Bhagavan. That in that frustration I got out of my seat of meditation and I was, running here and there like a madcap. As though out of compassion, Bhagavan himself gave me a call. It was a Akashavani. Samprati vartama shruyanta. If you have ever heard the Sanskrit news. So the news came, and who was the one that was announcing it? Swayam Bhagavan himself. So Bhagavan introduced himself saying, I am that Bhagavan Vishnu. In this life, though I see your intensity, purity and sadhutva, there is still so much of sadhana and abhyasa that you have to do, that this vision which I teasingly gave you can be a possibility for you only in your next life. But it is guaranteed in your next life, you will be completely with me only. Not this life. And then Bhagavan vanished. So Narad Ji said, that was the transformation for my life. Oh, Vyas Bhagavan. Vyas Ji said, this is not fair. ये तो आधी अधूरी कहानी है. What happened after that? So Narad Ji said, I thought I could escape. Gave you the point of inspiration and now let you, find that inspiration and you understand and write Bhagavatam. But since you so eagerly ask, I will narrate the rest of the story tomorrow. 8:30 बज रहा है. Huh? I cannot complete the next 13 chapters in 2 minutes. You had a question. A good question. I thought I will handle the topic of Buddha when we come through that avatara and explain later. There are several names in our history that get repeated several times. Kapila, for example, Kapila is that who was born to Devahuti and Kardama, and he gave the Sankhya Vijnana. Sankhya Shastra was given to us. In a later date, closer in this Kali Yuga, there was another Rishi called Kapila, and he also has given Sankhya, but that is the Darshana, Shat Darshana, 6 different views of understanding philosophy. One of them is Sankhya, and that was given by this second Kapila. He has also named that Darshana Shastra as Sankhya. So people always get confused between this Kapila and his Sankhya and that Kapila and his Sankhya. Similarly, Buddhavatara also is not what is today proclaimed as the Siddhartha transforming into Buddha, who is then claimed as the Gautama the Buddha, but there was prior to him a rishi named Gautama who taught about enlightenment, Bauddhatva. Therefore, he was also known as Gautama Buddha. He was in the area of what is today known as northern Uttar Pradesh and southern Bihar. That was the place that this Buddhavatara, which is being mentioned in Bhagavata, took place. Whereas this Siddhartha Buddha was in the Lumbini Vana, which was closer to Nepal. बिहार के बाद ही नेपाल आता है. This is the southern tip of Bihar, that is the northern tip of Bihar. That is one difference that you can observe. Does that satisfy you? Thank you, you said yes. We'll continue with Naradji's story tomorrow. See, this particular first canto, it talks about three sets of speaker and taught, the teacher and taught. The first set of teacher and taught we have already seen. Who are they? Suta and Shaunakadi rishis in Naimisharanya. They came from living a life of dharmic attitude, now turning their minds towards bhakti and Bhagavan. The second set of speaker and teacher and taught is Naradji and Vyasa Bhagavan. Here also, what is the message that is being emphasized? You have lived the dharmic life, now you have to turn your mind towards Bhagavan. The last set is of two great Vairagis, one was Parikshita, the other is Shuka Maharshi. That we will see tomorrow. But the important point is, many of us proclaim, I am not interested in all these Bhagavan, Bhakti and Puja and other things. I know to live a life of Dharma, I have done life Dharma, that is more than sufficient. That is not sufficient. That ensures that we get entrapped in this cycle again and again and again. But if we want to get out of this entrapment, having lived that dharmic life, we now have to necessarily turn towards Bhagavan and Bhakti. Just because we have learnt few words that there is intellectualization of it, I think I can intellectualize Bhagavan. I am not interested in puja. Every step that has been explained through the scriptures is meant for our purification and our growth. Puja, japa, dhyana, upasana, shastra vichara, manana, shravana, manana, nididhyasana, then comes to the point of dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So, if you have lived that dharmic life, it is necessary that you turn your attention to the higher. Having lived the dharmic life and not turning your attention is like coming to the restaurant, reading the name restaurant and then going back, without having the fulfillment of having gone there. It is called vrajapriyam, shramayevahi. That is the important point. That we will continue tomorrow. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.